Please be seated. The court is now in session. Today, the chamber continues to hear testimony of witness Kang Gajiew alias Dutch. Ms. Sakabuti, please report the attendance of the parties and other individuals to today's proceedings. Gracias. Mr. President, for today's proceedings, all parties to this case are present. Mr. Nunji is present in the holding cell downstairs. He has waived his right to be present in the courtroom. The waiver has been delivered to the greffier. The witness who is to continue his testimony today, that is Mr. Kang Gajiew alias Dutch, is present in the courtroom. Thank you. President, thank you, Mr. Sakabuti. The chamber now decides on the request by Nunji. The chamber has received a waiver from Nunji dated 14 June 2016, which states that due to his health, that is headache, back pain, he cannot sit or concentrate for long, and in order to effectively participate in future hearings, he requests to waive his rights to be present at the 14 June 2016 hearing. Having seen the medical report of Nunji by the duty doctor for the accused at the ECCC dated 14 June 2016, which notes that Nunji has a severe back pain and feels dizzy when he sits for long, and recommends that the chamber shall grant him his request so that he can follow the proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs. Based on the above information and pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the ECCC internal rules, the chamber grants Nunji his request to follow today's proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs via and audio-visual means. The chamber instructs the AV unit personnel to link the proceedings to the room downstairs so that Nunji can follow. That applies for the whole day. I'd like to hand the floor again to the Deputy Co-Prosecutor to continue putting further questions to the witness.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors, Counsel. Good morning, Mr. Witness. When we left off yesterday, we were talking about Khieu Samphan, and you had referenced a discussion you had with Pong, where he had told you about Khieu Samphan participating in the decision to the meeting where a decision was made to arrest the West Zone Secretary, Chu Chet alias C. I want to read to you something.
Please hold on, and Defense Counsel and Takishe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I would like to apologize to the Chamber because yesterday when I was on my feet, I was speaking about a document from 1999 and I got confused. The document which the co-prosecutor is referring to, E3/347, is indeed the document E3/347 is not the interview with Nate Thayer, but with a member of the UNHCR, and the segment at ERN French 00160922 and in English 001849998, in which the witness refers to a conversation he had with Pong well, we should note that it is following that this is connected to this in the interview transpired that this was connected to confession. So I refuse that we use this interview if we're going to base ourselves on the confessions from Pong.
That's not what this says. It says it was after his confession was done. He's made different statements on this too in his prior testimony as to exactly when this took place. This is certainly an issue that counsel can cross-examine the witness on. I'm moving on to a different issue from that. She is certainly entitled to cross-examine and find whether and exactly the circumstances of his discussion with Pong.
Well, let me then quote more specifically what is indicated in the statement so that we are clear about this. If I believe Chim Sam-ok's confessions, alias Pong, it is stated, after Pong finished writing out his confessions, I spoke to him. And let me finish with a quote. In the same way, yesterday, we said that as of the moment when a person is questioned and had been questioned at S21 or interrogated, or when a person was a prisoner at S21, anything regarding this person's confessions is tainted with the possibility of torture at least, and therefore these confessions should not be used in such a proceeding.
Judge Laverne, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'm a little bit disturbed by Counsel Guisset's observations. We know that the witness had strong ties with Pong because Pong, owing to his duties, met with the witness. We know that Pong was also detained at S21. We have Pong's confessions as well. Unless you can demonstrate to us that the information in question comes from the confessions, I cannot see how on the basis of this simple note you can assert that the information provided by Pong were given under torture. Counsel Guisset, well, Judge Laverne, I have a hard time understanding your remark. First of all, this simple note a priori or witness statement that states clearly, and that is how it's quoted. The sentence says that if I believe Chim Sam-ok's confessions, alias as Pong, so it is the witness himself who says that this conversation took place when Pong was at S21 and confessed. It's not I who am saying this, it is the witness who places this interview at this specific moment. And second of all, if I refer to the Chamber's decision yesterday, it's not up to me to prove that the statements made by Pong were not made under torture, but up to the person who is going to use elements coming from S21 confessions to prove that these elements are not tainted by torture. So here there's kind of a reversal of the burden of the proof, which I do not understand. Judge Laverne, you're not quoting a statement coming from the confessions. We agree here. This is not a quote coming from Pong's confessions. This is something that is much more informal. And we have Pong's confessions on the case file. So you should refer to the confessions to know what they contain. And if indeed this does come from the confession, in any case, I think you were referring to a question that was put yesterday by the co-prosecutor. And I do not believe that the objection is founded on the questions that were put this morning. So maybe we can move ahead, and then you'll have the opportunity, when you will cross-examine, to put the questions that you wish to clarify this issue. Counsel Guisset, I'd like to specify because the co-prosecutor said that you had a conversation with Pong. and that's where we stopped yesterday. So I was just reacting to this information. So, of course, the Chamber can issue its decision, but at least my comments are on the record now.
If I could proceed, since this issue is raised, why don't I ask a question to the witness now, and counsel can follow up further on this. Mr. Witness, your conversation with Pong where he talked about Khieu Samphan, was that part of his interrogation and confession, or was that a separate conversation you had with him? Can you give us some clarification on that?
Allow me to clarify the matter. At the time, Brother Sonsen had gone to the front battlefield, and Brother Noon assigned Pong to take charge of S-21. I asked Pong in his capacity as my superior, that is, someone who was in charge of S-21. I recall that the confession of Pong was not important as he made so many denials. And what I reported in his testimony in relation to Pong, in fact, was in his capacity as my superior in his replacement of Brother Noon.
All right. What I want to actually ask you about now is a statement made by Khieu Samphan himself when he was interviewed by Steve Heder. This is document E3/203, Khmer ERN 0038541 through 14, English 0042416, French 00434-236 through 237. Again, the document is E3/203. And let me read you a segment from this interview. Quote, question, what I wanted to ask was at the time was about anyone who was accused of being either CIA agents or Yun agents. I want to ask if any of them were accused of being Yun agents in order to kill them, in order to kill true patriots. Did that happen among the upper echelon? And Khieu Samphan's answer, yes, there was a comrade in the West. He was accused by the Yun agents. They were responsible for that. They accused him. However, they were not successful because we investigated the case in a timely manner. End of quote. And in a article Steve Heder wrote at E3/3169, Khmer 00711-413, English 0000277-1, French 00722-090. Heder wrote the following about this statement. Quote, this was evidently an allusion to the investigation he conducted in the West Zone in August 1977 and Pol Pot's resulting decision to kill Zone Secretary Chu Chet, but not his deputy Heng Pal. End of quote. You've told us about your discussion with Pong about Khieu Samphan's participation in the meeting. Did you hear anything about Khieu Samphan's participation in an investigation of who to arrest in the West Zone?
First, allow me to clarify the names that you stated. the Deputy Secretary of the West Zone was not Hein Paul, but Hein Pal. And his native name was Hut Hein. And Brother Ham likes to call him Hein Pal. And allow me to reiterate the matter related to Comrade Pong. When I questioned him about Brother Ham or Brother C, I questioned him in his capacity as my superior, and who actually came to take charge at S21, and that I worked with him. When the standing committee held a meeting to decide the arrest of Brother Z, and what was the comment made by Brother Vaughan, that's what I questioned him on. And this Comrade Pong did not have any authority to attend meetings at 870. However, he was there to make invitation to persons to attend the meeting based on the instructions of Uncle Paul. And that time, Comrade Pong said, Brother Vaughan was there, but Brother Paul didn't didn't ask him to invite him, but to invite Brother Ham instead. So Pong did not attend the meeting, but he was the one who wants to give invitations to those who had to attend the meeting. And I was suspicious of in the confession of Brother Pong, and that Brother C was arrested because Brother Mok hated him, and I questioned Pong on this. And Pong said Brother Vaughan did not attend the meeting, and that he trusted Vaughan more than Mok in the judgment against Brother C. So I hope that is clear. And I do not know whether I fully answered your question, or maybe I only answered half of your question.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. I wanted to follow up on something you said. You indicated that Brother Ham liked to call Paul by a certain name. How did you know what Khieu Samphan liked to call Paul? How do you know that?
I learned of the matter at a later stage regarding this person, Hein Pal.
I want to ask you about another thing, a part of Khieu Samphan's testimony when he was giving interviews to the co-investigating judges. He has denied having knowledge of any arrests during the DK regime. He claims he only learned after 1979 that people had been arrested. I want to read to you a specific excerpt. This is from his interview on the morning of 14 December 2007, E3/37, E337, Khmer ERN 0015665, English 0015673, French 0015660. And in this interview, Khieu Samphan was discussing his relationship with Souvazi alias Doing, and how the two of them had been on a committee related to the Office 870, the political committee. And this is what he said about Souvazi when he was asked about his arrest. Quote, He was arrested in 1977, but I only discovered that fact after the fall of the Khmer Rouge, that is, after 1979. I was not surprised by his absence because, as I've said, each of us had to concentrate on his or her own tasks. He traveled quite a lot, Dune. No one knew where he was except the members of the Standing Committee. End of quote. I want to get your reaction to this, Mr. Witness, and specifically, was it well known, very well known, during the Democratic Kampuchea regime that prominent leaders such as Koi Tun, Chakri, Dun, and others had been purged?
President Witness, please hold on, and Councillor Kong Som On, you have the floor. Kong Som On, thank you, Mr. President. I object to the question by the Deputy Co-Prosecutor in order to seek a comment from a witness or to seek his understanding of the fact mentioned in his question. It is not appropriate to ask the witness to make comment on the question, as it does not have to ascertain the truth in this matter.
Very briefly, Mr. President, it's something the defense counsel do all the time, but my question to him is a specific one. Was it well known that people like Dun, Koi Tun, and others were arrested? Was that well known? So it's a specific question within his knowledge.
President, the question is permissible. However, the Chamber has reminded parties to be careful with the words in the question, namely to ask for the witness to react and not to ask for his understanding, since when you ask for an understanding, it is a rather subjective matter. It would be more appropriate to ask for his reaction or his observation. So it is just a matter of wordings that you use, so that there won't be so many interruptions. And Mr. Witness, please respond to the question put to you last by the Deputy Co-Prosecutor. You still recall it? Witness. Mr. President, allow me to clarify that for some well-known individuals who were arrested and sent to S21 were in two categories. The first category, they were arrested and the information was not leaked out, even some staff at S21. However, later on it was leaked. In the case of Koi Tun, after his arrest, Koi Tun confessed, and one day Brother Paul asked Brother Kiel, that is on Sen, to disseminate confessions of certain individuals, including those of Pang, Koi Tun, and Ja. And that was held at the stadium, at the basketball court. At that time, I did not attend that dissemination, and the purpose was to disseminate those confessions. And later on, Brother Paul, during the 17 April 1977 anniversary, he spoke about the arrest of Brother Ja and Brother Kun. He stated that Ja was the 10th person in the party, so he was under Kun. But under the CIA flag, it was the opposite. And that was based on the confessions from S21 on the CIA network. Ja actually instructed Kun to do this or do that. But on the party, Kun was the 9th person. So that information was disseminated widely. And people in the rank, that is in the cadre and the youth ranks, knew about that. Even when the party removed Goitrun, that is after he had an affair with a man's wife and later on killed that man, the party removed him from Commerce Office, and that information was also known to S21. From my recollection, he was removed in April 1976. And of course, that information should not be leaked to S21. However, unofficially, we knew about it. As for Sư Vasi alias Duan, actually requested to become an official at the Ministry of Commerce. So this is what we learned, either officially or not officially. However, if he said that he learned of that information after 1979, I believe he is not courageous. He's not that brave enough as a revolutionary. He should serve the people, and if he made mistake, he should express his remorse or regret to the people.
On the issue of confessions being read at party meetings, I want to ask you about something from David Chandler's book, Voices from S21. This is document E3/1684. E3-1684, Khmer ERN 00192046, English 00192873, and this is something that appears in footnote 47. There's no French translation of the footnote at this time. This is what David Chandler wrote. Quote, Naysaran, alias Ya, Naysaran's former bodyguard, interviewed in Ratnakiri by Sarah Combe in 1996 on condition of anonymity, recalled Kusampan reading aloud from Saran's confession for 3 hours at a party meeting. End of quote. Did you ever hear of Kusampan reading from S21 confessions at political education or party meetings?
I am surprised by that excerpt. If it is a text from David Chandler, the text would be playful in that sense. Naysaran was not a bodyguard, he was a secretary of the Northeast Zone, and Brother Ham never went to make such an announcement in the public. Brother Ham was so secretive since the time he went into the forest.
I think the quote may have gotten mistranslated. It was a former bodyguard of Ya who was interviewed and who said this. So it was a bodyguard of Ya who told a person that was interviewed that he was at a party meeting, at a party meeting where Q Sampan read from this confession, Ya's confession. My question is simply a yes or no. Did you ever hear of Q Sampan reading S21 confessions at any party meetings, not public meetings, but party meetings?
No, I did not. I did not hear him reading it.
ហើយក៏ខំមិនចង់និយាយ
And I do not want to speak about the way that David Chandler wrote his book.
And on the same subject, the announcements within the party about arrests of high-level cadres, I also want to read to you an excerpt from the May to June 1978 Revolutionary Flag. This is document E3 727 E3/727 Khmer 64566 English 0018533 French 0052440. And the following statement appears in that issue of Revolutionary Flag. Quote, "The despicable Chakri, the despicable Chuk, the despicable Tuch, the despicable Dun, the despicable Pim, the despicable Si, the despicable Kaumia, and the despicable Che were all CIA. The only difference among them was that some of these CIAs were more on the American side, while others were more on the Yun side." End of quote. Do you remember, Mr. Witness, there being discussion of purges of these high-level cadres in Revolutionary Flag? And the names that were just listed here, other than Sao Pim, were all of these people, Chakri, Chuk, Koitun alias Tuch, Dun, Si, Kaumia, were all these people who had been imprisoned and executed at S21?
First of all, I would like to recall the names once again. Chakray was sent into S21. The same applies to Chuk, Toch, or Koi Chuan. Comrade Nguyen were all sent to S21. And I could not read another name from the document. Brother C was sent into S21, Kaumia and Brother J were also sent into S21. And there is another individual, Brother Pum. Brother Pum was not sent to S21.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Let me turn to something you referenced yesterday. I want to ask you some questions about the meeting you attended that was led by Q Sampan in early January 1979. You told us a little bit about that yesterday. How many people in total were present at this meeting that you were brought to that was led by Q Sampan?
I cannot recall how many of them were present. However, Comrade Rương, the chief of state warehouse, pushed me the chair for me to sit on. I know that there were other individuals at the meeting. Let me make my observation. The meeting was held on the 6th of January 1979, 30 hours, perhaps 27 hours, perhaps, before the invasion of Yuan into the country. At the time, I was called by Comrade Lin to go and work with brothers or a brother. I thought I would be working with Brother Nguyen at the time, but in fact, when I arrived, I saw Brother Haim. I decided to go since I thought that Lin would not do any things without the instruction of the upper echelon. When I arrived at that location, I saw 6 or 7 people at that place. Let me say, it is my observation. By the time, Jane On had already been arrested. Ok was from industry, and I know other individuals were also arrested. Brother Rut from the state's warehouse was not arrested by then, but he was not there at the meeting. This is my observation that I would like to provide to you, Mr. Co-Prosecutor.
Just so we're clear, your best estimate is that there may have been 6 or 7 people at this meeting. So this certainly was not a meeting where there were many people. Sorry. Am I correct then that it was a relatively small number of people at this meeting?
The meeting was meant to discuss the work issues and also to disseminate information to chief of units under the chairman of the committees surrounding the center, and the people at that meeting were around 6 or 7 the most.
So when you show up at this meeting, Lin brings you, Q Simpan's there, you enter this room with a small number of people. Did Q Simpan ask who you are, why are you at this meeting, or did he understand that you were coming to this meeting?
I don't think I can answer to the point, but I'm talking to my recollection. When I arrived at the Buddhist school, Saramarat Buddhist school, Lin pushed me, and a chair was given, an empty seat was given to me. Brother Haim at the time did not say any words to me, and he did not invite me to take the seat. By that time, the Vietnamese was approaching, and soon Rương and San were also there, and we were advised and encouraged to focus on our work. The meeting was held on the ground floor at Saramarat Buddhist School. There were no walls, and the guards may have been able to observe the process of the meeting from afar at the time.
Just so we're clear, do I understand, am I correct then that When you arrived at this meeting, Q Sampan was not surprised, and he didn't stop and ask you who you are and why are you here. He said nothing when you arrived at this meeting.
He was acting normal at the time. He did not say a word to me. And after I took the seat, he started to address the participants in that meeting. And I presume that he had known me in advance already, but we did not see each other before.
And at this meeting, did Q Sampan give instructions or orders to the people who were present?
There was an instruction to all of us. He said the situation was normal. We were encouraged to work as normal as well.
And in the meeting, did he talk about the military situation and refer to some of the specific military commanders and what they were doing?
He did not discuss any other matters in length. He only stated that the situation was normal. The situation was normal. Comrade Ruan and San were defending the country, and we were told to proceed with our normal work. That was his summary instruction.
And I know who these two people are, but can you identify for the court who Comrade Ruan and Comrade San were?
Comrade Ruan was a secretary of a division, to my recollection, secretary of Division 801. As for San, he was a secretary of another division. To my recollection, San was the secretary of a strong division, that is Division 920.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Let me move on to another subject. I want to talk to you about arrests of S-21 staff or cadres. The S-21 records show a significant number of S-21 cadres arrested 1977, 1978. Did you make the decisions to arrest those people, or did your superiors make those decisions?
That was clear. Most of those who were arrested were the former resistance in the city. And most members of Division 703 were arrested. So people from the city were arrested since the time Nat was the chairman to my recollection. At the time, NADA made a report to the upper echelon for the decision of the upper echelon. Later on, some members of Division 703 were still working at that location, and Ho was there. At the time, I made a report to the upper echelon, and I could only make the arrest as long as I got the permission. There was a case, paying was allowed an individual to crawl and get a weapon, and after that a fire took place, and that person was removed. So I only could make a report to the upper echelon. After the fire shot, I made a report to the upper echelon after Ho told me about the issue. There was another case, a young boy from Division 310. When that young boy entered into a front building in S21 compound, one individual grabbed M16 and fired into the air, fired wood at that location. Ho made a report to me about that incident, that Wood was killed by the fire shot. These were the two examples which the upper echelon made the decisions on the two incidents.
You've talked extensively in the past about the arrest of Hui Sray, the head of Praisar. What I wanted to ask you about is when Hui Sray was arrested, was his wife also arrested, and what happened to her?
Thank you. There was continuing issues with Hui Sray, and Ho reported the matters to me, and I forwarded the report up the line. What I suspicious the most was concerning a radio operator at the shrine or at the field. That radio operator fled the field, and the mistakes of Hui Sray was double that the escape of that radio operator. And after the instruction of the upper echelon, I, together with Ho, started to make a plan to arrest Hui Sray.
And who was the superior that you reported to who made the decision on what to do with Hui Sray?
Uncle Nuon. That is Nuon Chia, Mr. Nuon Chia.
And what about his Hui Sray's wife? And I don't know if they had children. What happened to his wife and children when Hui Sray was arrested?
After the husband was gone, the wife was automatically arrested. Kuhn was arrested then by S21, and they had a young child, less than 1 year old, and that child was also arrested. This was the principle of the upper echelon.
Did either Huisre's wife, Kun, or their one-year-old child survive?
After they were arrested, all of them were smashed. That is the principle. There was a case that the arrestee was not smashed. That was the case of Deepon, the dentist.
Since you brought up Deepon, let me ask you, there was something I wanted to ask you about Deepon. You've indicated that after he was arrested, you got a phone call, or you were contacted by Noon Chea and instructed to keep him alive because they needed a dentist. How did Noon Chea know that this dentist, Deepon, had been arrested and sent to S21?
Let me clarify that Deepon Paul and Brother Haim had known in each other, and yesterday perhaps I overstated that Pol Pot and Deepon were friends, and they joined the party together in France. However, after Deepon arrived, Deepon could not make way into the party. Before 1970, that is before the coup d'etat, Deepon had engaged in various activities.
Do you remember whether Deepon had a wife and whether she arrived at S21 at the same time as him?
Deepon's wife was my teacher when I was in mathematics class. Nat Pauline was teaching natural science. They were progressive people. That is, those who loved the communism and served communism. Pauline was very active. And there was her brother names were Dan Mok, the engineer. When her husband went into the jungle in 1970, Pauline was still at Phnom Penh. She did not go with Deepon, and later on Deepon married another woman, the widow. So, later on, Tang Pauline went to France. That is why I said I am expecting the two women. If they come to the court, I would pay my respects to those two women, and I would like to apologize for not being able to secure the life of their husbands.
Mr. President, with your leave, I'd like to present an S21 list to the witness at this time. It's document E3 2175. E3 2175, with your leave.
President, you may proceed.
And if we can show this on the screen. The list I've just handed you, Mr. Witness, is a list of prisoners from the Ministry of Social Affairs. And if you first look at number 6 on the list, number 6, you'll see the name of Deepon alias Tuk. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his alias correctly. 47 Technical Committee at Social Affairs, entered on the 10th of December 1978. Is that the same Deepon, the dentist we've been discussing?
Yes, there is Deepon that we have just been discussing.
And if you'd look down towards the end of the list, number 25 on the list is a female named Ung Hun, alias Van, 36-year-old, who is identified as the wife of the contemptible Tuk, Deepon's alias, who entered on the same date as Deepon. Was this the second wife of Deepon? Do you remember this woman, Mr. Witness?
Comrade 1 was the second wife of Deepon.
And when Nunchea contacted or called you and told you to spare the life of the dentist Deepon, did he also instruct you to spare the life of his wife, or was she executed?
Brother Noon invited me to work with him, and he demanded that Deepon was to be spared. And I was reluctant at that time. He says that my teeth were not good, so we all needed to spare the life of Deepon as the dentist. And after my arrival at my office, I forwarded the instruction to release Deepon. Concerning Comrade Pan, I do not know what happened to her. I did not even know at the time that she was there in S21. She may have been smashed.
Thank you. Let's go back to we were talking about arrests of S21 cadres. I had already asked you about Hui Srey, and we talked about his wife and son. Mr. President, I'd like to, at this time, provide to the witness document E3/3694, E3/3694, and it is a note that was written by, we believe, by the witness on the cover page of a S21 confession. With your leave, may I provide this to the witness?
President, you may proceed.
The document I've handed you, Mr. Witness, E3/3694, it's the cover page of the confession of a person named Vong Sam At, alias Vong Un, who is identified as an interrogator combatant at S21. And there is a handwritten note that appears on the page in red ink. We can show that on the screen and magnify it a little. If you have a hard time reading that, I've also provided a magnified copy at the end. If you look at the very last page, that might be easier to read. your handwriting. This is what is indicated in this note that we're looking at. It states, "To respected brother, this bastard carries out activities within the S-21 interrogator group. Unlike the previous two persons, he acts only among his colleagues who are the interrogators and guards in S-21. Respectfully, Deutsch, dated the 26th of March, 1978. My first question, who was the respected brother to whom you wrote this note on 26 March 1978?
Regarding the month of March 1978, so it's actually separated from Sun Sen on the 15th of August 78, and here the respected brother refers to Brother Noon.
Did you receive any instructions from Brother Noon in response to your note regarding the interrogators and guards at S-21 who were named or who had been implicated?
As a principle regarding the arrest of staff of S21, I made the report to the upper echelon, and then the upper echelon would decide. And normally it means that the person has to be smashed.
And in 1978, when you were reporting to Noon Chea, were all the arrests of S-21 cadres approved or ordered by Noon Chea?
At S21, I never made decision to make any arbitrary arrest without the authorization from Brother Noon, and that was the chain of her work.
Mr. President, I'd like to provide, with your leave at this time, document E3/10376, E3-10376, which is a list titled List of Prisoners from the S-21 office for the months of February, covering February and March 1978.
Yes, your request is granted.
If you just take a brief look at this S-21 prisoner list, Mr. Witness, there are 22 people named here, including the person whose confession we just looked at, on which you had written an annotation, Vong Assam At. My question to you is a general one about the people on this list. Was it Noon Chea who ordered the arrests of these persons? And do you remember why the people on this list were arrested?
The event happened many years ago. As for the arrest of these people, forces were used. They were from former Division 703, and Ho was the one who organized that. And at that time, there were rather consecutive arrests of those individuals. As I said, in principle, Comrade Ho and I never dared to make any arbitrary arrest without authorization from the upper echelon. Not once used to make arbitrary arrest. And of course, those who were arrested, that is, heads of security centers throughout the country, were arrested and smashed. Or if any head of security offices made any arbitrary arrest or involved in attacking war spoils, they would be arrested and killed. This is my personal conclusion anyway.
Mr. President, may I also provide another list to the witness? It's document E3/9905, E3/9905, with your leave.
Yes, your request is granted.
The other group that I wanted to ask you specifically about, the people who worked at S21, were the medics. In the list I've just handed to you, E3/9905, if we can show this on the screen, Khmer page 01011302, numbers 12 through 14 on this list who I've highlighted were three of the medics at S21. Number 12, Peng Tri, identified as chairman of S21 Medical Office, arrested 10 May 78. Number 13 is Chim Sam Ur, alias Sep, arrested 6 April 78. Number 14, Cheng Pao, arrested 8 May 78. We've also heard testimony from some medics and some statements that most of the senior medics at S21 were arrested at some point in 1978. My question to you, why were the medics at S21 arrested, and was this something that was ordered by Nuon Chea? What do you remember about the arrests of the medics that you can tell us?
Amongst the three medics, the ones that was close to me was Comrade Tri. I do not recall the mistakes that Comrade Tri made. However, the main principles remained. Ho reported to me, and I made the request to the upper echelon. Ho was the one who supervised these people at S21. As for Comrade again, I did not know which offense he made. But one day he destroyed some materials at S21, despite the instructions from Ho. I testified that I spent several months to gather important documents from former Lunol officials, from Lunol's residents, and from various parties, offices, and that's from the military headquarters as well, and I maintained those documents in an orderly manner. One day, some made a request to use part of a location to the west of S21, and Ho approved that. Then he went to remove books in my library despite Ho's instruction not to touch it. And he threw those documents that I collected and that I compiled them in a timely manner. Ho was worried, so he came to me and invited me to go and inspect the scene. And when I saw the scattered documents, I asked who did that. And some came, and he said that he kept new documents and papers for me to use, and that he would discard the old documents. And I said, how dare you do that? These documents were my life, because I keep them for the party. And that was the mistake he made. So I made that report to the upper echelon. Regarding Comrade Pao, he came from Kotum, and he was a former 703 soldier. One day, Ho came from working outside, and he had dysentery, and Pao gave him B-Marshal, that is a medicine, and Ho was allergic to it. So I made an immediate report to Son Sen. And Son Sen said that the pill contained arsenic substance, and that I had to be vigilant with the medicines given through the cadres by medics. So I didn't know whether that was the offense that led to his arrest or whether he was arrested on a different ground. To my conclusion, he was arrested at a later stage. I believe the event that I just mentioned was unfolded long before the date of his arrest, because that happened in around 1977. And by 1978, it was 3 who used to come to my house. And these are the reasons for their arrest. At 21, the arrest took place amongst those from the city group since Nat left. Later on, the remnants of 703 was arrested, and Ho had to consider the free movement of former 703 staff and the challenges before him. As 17 individuals from Om Leang, they were not touched by Ho because I personally took those people from Om Leang to work at S21. And if any one of them was made a mistake, then a report has to be made to me. And of course, none of them ever made any mistake. This is the functioning of S21. And Ho had to be very strict and vigilant in order to prioritize the working condition at S21 and for the proper functioning to be reported to the upper echelon. And Ho never touched any of the staff that I brought in from Om Leang, since they were personally screened by me before they were brought to S21. That is all. President, thank you. It is now convenient to have a short break. We take a break now and resume at 25 to 11. court officer, please assist the witness at the break time and invite him back into the courtroom at 25 to 11. The court is now in recess.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ